As a Hornby Class 60 owner with a number of modern era liveries, TEA tank wagons were always going to be on my shopping list at some point. I held off going down the Bachmann route due to the high costs involved, but these wagons from Revolution Trains looked like the business, so I took the plunge. And would I recommend them for anybody else who's in the market for this wagon type? It's time to take a closer look. Hi, thanks for joining today's review. We'll kick off with our normal unboxing, so then we'll get into our close-up views and our running session. We'll follow that by our summary, scoring and final recommendation. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to do the unboxing for this Revolution Trains TEA fuel tanker, and this is the VTG livery. I bought 8 of these. This is one of the 8. We'll be doing a running session, going with a variety of liveries, but we'll take a look at one of them as just kind of representative in terms of getting to see the model a bit. So you get this kind of sheet on the outside. The one we're looking at here today, let's get that in focus, the VTG blue. And I've got them in a mixture of the kind of blue and grey liveries, which I kind of like. They come in these nice boxes, and very much kind of in the style of a Cure Scale type models and type packaging. And I wonder, do they come from the same place? So this is what, again, you would expect from other models that you've got from Revolution Trains, or as I say, from a Cure Scale, because it's very similar packaging. So let's get this guy out. I haven't owned any of these previously. I had looked at a number of options like the Bachmann versions, which are more expensive, quite expensive. These are a rerun. There was an earlier release of these at a lower price point. I think these ones are at a reasonable price point, and we'll kind of talk about the value aspect again. So let's kind of take a quick look at this guy from a detail perspective. So there's a little bit of weight in this, so we will weigh it as usual, get a feel for that. The typical assembly here is with a screw, and that's kind of for each of the bogies. That's kind of pretty typical. The wheel resistance seems reasonable, but I guess it's only when you get this on the track that you kind of see how good that actually is. It doesn't have the kind of spring return coupler. It's more a fixed coupler on each of the bogies. We'll see how that goes. There's a bit of play in these, as you can kind of see, which kind of works okay for you. So we'll see how that works out on the track. It might be nice if it did have the full return spring, but these are probably a little bit more robust in the long term. The buffers are just fixed, so it doesn't have sprung buffers. I guess maybe a little bit disappointing for a wagon in this sort of grade, I guess, of quality, because this would be like a step up from, say, an equivalent wagon from Hornby, which I would rate at a kind of a slightly lower level, obviously coming in at a cheaper price. So let's look around this guy here. A little bit of blue there on the logo. So let's see if we can maybe wipe that off. But the other labeling here looks really crisp and clean. Overall detail looks pretty good. You just need to be careful with the underbody here, because you could easily break some of the plastic detail that's in the underbody area, so just be careful with that when you're handling this. There's nice little grille walkways on the top, kind of like those. See them there? So they're quite nice. I like the look of those. The labeling is very clear around here. Obviously these are in a pristine state, and I guess one of the things that I tend to like to see is maybe getting an option from the vendor of a weathered version of one of these. They've kind of gone for producing these liveries across the different colors and covering the different eras and then covering different wagon numbers, rather than putting in any weathered options, which maybe is a little bit of a disappointment. I would like to see maybe just a weathered option for each of the main ones. Maybe just have it with a single wagon number, and that would be fine, because usually that'll be quite obscured anyway. overall it looks quite a nice wagon, so it'll be interesting to see these on the track and see what they look like. The trains in reality are quite good, and you can run this with, you know, things like Class 66 or your Class 50, some of the more heavyweight type locomotives, so you'll get good use of these. I've kind of gone for the more modern era here. I which is typically what I'd be modeling, which is, you know, era 11. So these will fit in okay with that, and go with the kind of locomotives that I would have that will work in that era, and look forward to using the upcoming Cura Scale Class 66s perhaps with that as well. So it's got a quality feel to it, looks pretty good. A little bit of touchiness there on the paint. I'll look at the other cars as well, so my assessment will be based on the 8 that I have, not just this one, which gives you a better feel for the whole thing. So I'll make that assessment, but it's not a bad wagon at all. In terms of the purchase, as I said, these are $48.95, I think is what I paid for this. So for a rake of 8 or 10 of these, that's going to get quite expensive. So, you know, that's the issue with goods wagons, I guess, or tankers like this. If you're going to try to build up a decent rake, it can be quite expensive. So they need to be pretty good, or you need to try to get them at a more reasonable price. So far so good. I think this is okay. We'll do the close-ups on it, and I'll probably, in the 360 view, we'll include a couple of the other livery colors, so we get a view of those, and we'll include all of them then in the running session. So all 8 wagons will get a run out, and we'll see how they perform. Okay, so far so good. Okay, let's get into our close-up view. So we'll start at one end of one of these blue VTG wagons. And I think you can see how kind of crisp and clear the lettering is. And we've got some other examples of that as we go. So very nice rendering there. There's a very nice grille, walkway on the top there. It's a separately fitted part. There's nice underbody detail as well. Again, separately fitted parts. Just a very clean finish along the side of the wagon there, and again some lettering there, which is very small, but it is very clear. And again, you can see the warning labels, etc., on this side here, and again really detailed and clear. And again, we'll have some more close-ups of these. They are crisp and clear, and those nice bogies there as well, and the nice ladders at the end, and those buffers. So a really nice rendering of this particular wagon. I have to say I was very pleased with these, and they do really stand a close-up view. Take a look at the grey VTG one now, which is actually quite nice as well. I think the grey one actually is particularly good because you wouldn't necessarily even need to weather the grey one so much, maybe just around the bogies, and very light weathering on the top would probably be fine. And again, it's all that same level of consistent detail in terms of all the lettering and the labeling across the model. And again, probably my favorite color of all of them, along with maybe the blue is probably one I like as well. But again, very nice rendition, and I think these wagons really do look good. So we'll get into our 360 view here. So we're going to run them in a couple of pairs, so you can get to see again some further different options. We got you can see the extra lettering there in terms of the VTG model there, and there's the grey one that we were looking at, again doing a circular view. So you can see the roof detail there, and there's a number of separately fitted kind of walkways and grills up there. So again, really to be welcomed, and very nice effect. And so overall, these wagons do look the part. I guess that's kind of it. And you know, I say they would be helped by maybe a little bit of weathering, and maybe some weathering out of the box might have been good, but that's really more detailed than anything else. And there is a good range of liveries. And again, we're going to look at a couple of other examples here. These are 2 distinct other variants that you can get. The kind of the light blue and the darker blue, the kind of a rebranded version there. As you can see, that the older branding was kind of painted over. And so again, a very nice effect. And, you know, having these in mixed rakes, and they are mixed in the field, so you will see quite a variety of the different liveries running behind a Class 60 typically. So again, very nice, and I think very pleased with these models. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is get into the running session. So there's a full version of this online, which you can check out, and running behind a Hornby Class 60.
which is pretty prototypical. And these really did run very well. I mean, I have to say, these models, they're very smooth running. So even when you put them on the track first, you can see how free running they are. And hence they've got very little resistance as well, very little running resistance. So your class 60 could run and pull a very significant rake of these. And you don't really need a class 60. A railroad type locomotive wouldn't have any problems with these because they're so free running. So I ran them quite a bit over radius 2 and radius 3, my inner circuit there. It's got a lot of the old Hornby point work, which can be problematic for certain rolling stock. It wasn't problematic for these. I didn't have any problems at all on that circuit. And you can see them there chugging along very nicely. Now, I did run these up to quite a speed, and we will speed up here pretty quickly. You'll notice the speed will kind of chalk up when we get around the next bend. We'll kind of crank it up again to another level. I ran these up to a prototypical equivalent speed of scale speed of 92 miles per hour, and they were super smooth. They effectively run like coaches, to be honest. They're like running your Mark III coaches or something like that. That's the kind of equivalent running performance you're getting from these. Which is very good from a piece of freight rolling stock. So these are just impeccable runners, that's all I can say. And we'll start slowing it down again now. But as I said, I did get these up to a very good speed, and that was more just to test them out. It was not a prototypical speed. You wouldn't typically be running at that sort of speed, but it's good to validate their performance, as I said, and I've kind of validated both at speed and over the radius 2 and radius 3 circuits as well. So overall, I'm extremely pleased with the running session and absolutely no cramps. These models are top notch from a running perspective, and I'll certainly be reflecting that in the scoring. Okay, so very respectable running session with these wagons. Okay, so let's get into our summary. So we've been looking at these TEA wagons from Revolution Trains that come in multiple liveries and different car number options. And I've kind of listed them there so that you can have a reference. So you've got things like the EWS, VTG, Freightliner liveries, and this Green Energy debranded version. That's a pretty wide choice and a good opportunity to create a decent rake. And obviously many of these would be mixed in the field, and you will see mixed rakes out there. So this is a dual bogeyed wagon that runs on a minimum radius 2 curve, and it's fitted with NEM pockets and tension lock couplers. These come as standard. It's very crisp lettering, very high level of detail overall, and a lot of separately fitted parts on each of these models. Comes with a very basic detailing kit, and that's basically because an awful lot of the detail is already there. Unboxed weight is 169 grams. And actually, these models do feel heavier than that in the hand, but that's still a pretty decent weight to have for a model like this. The peak scale speed that I tested these at, which was on radius 3 circuit, was 92 miles per hour, which would be beyond what you'd typically ever be running these at. But that was just to give a feel for their performance under speed, and they did perform really well. The selling price, recommended retail price, is $48.95, and that's effective as of March 2024. So let's get into our scoring. So the running performance on these, I think as you've seen from the running session, is a 10 out of 10. These wagons did not give me any problems at all from a running performance perspective. And I did run them quite a bit on a radius 2 circuit over a lot of the old Hornby type points and diamonds, which tend to be problematic for certain rolling stock, but not for these. So well done to Revolution Trains. Their performance is really excellent. And these are really smooth runners. They don't put a huge load on the locomotive either, even though they are relatively heavy. Appearance and detail is a 9 out of 10. I think overall it's very, very good. A lot of separately added parts. Just tiny bits of maybe roughness here and there, but things like the lettering is crystal clear, as we've seen, and really a good job. So these wagons are very nice wagons from an appearance perspective. Say I probably would have liked a weathered option, but that's just me. Extras and variants overall very, very good. I guess one of the things probably we'd like to see on wagons like this in the future and going forward would be magnetic couplers. I think that's probably no harm. I think the tension locks, while they're fine, they do the job. I do think we're reaching an era when people would probably prefer to have at least an option of magnetic couplers out of the box. The build quality overall is a 9 out of 10, and I did get some feedback that people did have some issues with some models they got out of the box where some of the parts had become displaced, particularly around the wheels and the bogies. So I think that's unfortunate, and hence it's not a perfect score for the build quality or the packaging and documentation. I think price value overall at this sort of price level is good, 8 out of 10. And as I said, a little bit of extra discounting if you're buying these in volume probably would have gone astray. Overall, it's a very high scoring wagon, and even better scoring when you take the value piece out. I just think it's really good quality. These could have been coming from a Cura scale, for example, and you wouldn't be surprised. So well done to Revolution Trains, really, really nice models. Revolution Trains TEA wagons have lived up to all my expectations. With lots of detail, very crisp lettering, lots of separately fitted parts, and superb running performance, these wagons ticked all the boxes for me and gave me the most authentic tanker train on my layout that I've ever owned. A range of different livery types was always going to be a challenge that Revolution Trains have certainly lived up to. At a reasonable cost point relative to their more expensive Bachmann cousins and the lower cost Hornby versions, these represent an excellent compromise for modelers. Discounting for multiple purchases at the same time, or as part of a multi-pack, would have been nice, as would a number of weathered variants, but these are only nice to haves. With the cost of creating a prototypical rake potentially being very expensive, a level of volume discounting would still have been welcome though. Overall, these TEA wagons from Revolution Trains come highly recommended, if you can get them, that is. Clearly a lot of people are building large rakes of these, hence the squeeze on availability. These are probably the strongest offering from Revolution Trains that I've ever reviewed on the channel, so hats off to them for that. So what is your experience with the TEA tanker wagons from Revolution Trains? If you already have them, how have they worked out for you? Did you experience any problems with these wagons? As always, let us know in the comments. So thank you for joining today's review. Please hit a like if you found it of interest. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. In the meantime, take care and happy modelling.